based on our experience, we have spent like months, probably 1.5 years, to build developer portal, API marketplace. We were a partner of the year for APAC for 17 and 18, and we were also featured in Deloitte Fast 50 program. We were ranked at 10th position, ranked at 7th position. In a way, we kind of coexist, because the developers, they do use a lot of developer tools to develop, create, test, and deploy.
Hello and welcome to another fantastic episode of Pitch Cafe podcast. Today we have with us a very hot property, I would say, because he is the founder and CEO of a B2B SaaS startup from the heart of Silicon Valley in India, Bengaluru. His startup is called DAC, and it has all to do with API and API platforms. Now, why are APIs hot? What is the SaaS startup all about? We'll get to know shortly. Hey, but before that, why are APIs hot? In today's market, if you want to build applications, you need a front end, and that's what APIs do. Imagine a startup which is trying to make it very easy for huge corporations to build these APIs. For what? For e-commerce, for banking, and you name it. Just as I mentioned that banking is one of the domains they operate in, HSBC happens to be their client. FinServ is also their client. So with such large client base with 1.7 million ARR, we have with us the founder and CEO of DAC, DigitalAPICraft, a startup from Bengaluru. So without further ado, let's bring on Bharath Kumar, and he's all the way here for showcasing his startup to Silicon Valley investors. He was at SaaSter, a very hot and happening SaaS conference, also at SaaS Boomi Caravan, the very first show where lots of investors from Silicon Valley were here. That's where I got hold of him. I found it very exciting that he's building a marketplace. Without further ado, let's bring on Bharath. Hey Bharath, how are you doing?
Hey Vidya, doing very well. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Awesome. So, I meet a lot of SaaS startup founders day in and day out, and they have only one question. I have this idea and I know that this is a pain point. How do I go about building a SaaS startup? So a lot of people come to Silicon Valley with dreams just like you did, from Bengaluru and from large and small towns. Tell us your story. How did DigitalAPICraft come to be? You were in consulting, you had a great career, you had big labels. Why did you pick, to give up all that, start with consulting, and now you have a product company? Tell us all about that.
Thank you for that lovely introduction, Vidya, I must say. So let me start with my background. Before starting DigitalAPICraft, what was I doing and everything? So I had worked for various companies, for about IBM, GalaxE Solutions, Infinite. One company, caught me, spent a lot of time. That was Apigee. It's a Google product now. Google has acquired Apigee in 2016.
Absolutely. I know a lot of people from Apigee, and Apigee seems to be the place where you start building applications.
Correct, yeah. Apigee was founded in 2006, had a great run. Apigee opened the API management space. They were key influencers creating the API management market. Now today, if you look at the whole API management, API gateway platform, there are about 30 plus. So when I used to work with Apigee 2012 to 2015, there were about like 7 or 8 API platforms. Most of them got acquired by them. Some of them are coming new. Today, if I look back in the last 6 months, there are a lot of Kubernetes, container-based API platforms are coming up. So one end of the equation is API platform are evolving, and a lot of innovation are happening. And at the same time, tools around APIs, developer experience products that are evolving. To go back to your question, that's where it started. So 2012 to 2015, I used to work, with Apigee, and that's where I acquired a lot of experience, customer success, pre-sales, engineering.
And how many years you were at?
I was there for 3+ years.
So you had a good visibility in the developer tools domain.
Correct. Yeah, I had probably like a work for close to 30+ large enterprises. Fantastic. So I was with customer success with them. That's where I learned how are they using the API platform, what kind of APIs they're onboarding, public APIs, internal APIs, partner APIs, etc. So I led a lot of customer in their engagements. I built their initial API platform for them. So that kind of gave us a lot of in-depth experience. And also I come from a middleware, ESB, SOA background, so I understand the whole enterprise stack. It kind of gave me the whole insight what APIs can can do for enterprises, probably like, for the next 7-8 years. So when I quit Apigee, I had only vision. So this is big, this is huge. And enterprises needed a lot of help in the initial, in the between 2015-16 times. Healthcare, banking was one of very hot enterprises. They were adopting APIs. Telco were adopting APIs. We played a lot of key roles in making this happen, with DigitalAPICraft. So 2015, that's where the key decision happened. So I was thinking I had a choice to join a large company and work for them, or then quit Apigee and do something on my own. And it started with one single client, Fox. We had a conversation. They needed a help on building APIs. So that's where it started, with one single customer, working from home, being a consultant. So that's where DigitalAPICraft was born. It literally at my home in a 3-bedroom apartment in Bangalore. So what I quickly realized in the next 3 months was the profound vision and how big, this company could be. I could have just continued as a consultant, but that's where the vision started of building a company and expanding it. So 2015, when I quit, so DigitalAPICraft was born. I still remember I didn't have a name for the company, and one of the executive leader from Fox who was having a conversation, he asked me, what's your company name? I had to go back and build a company name. And DigitalAPICraft, I spent 2 days to come up with the name. I know it's long, but customers do call us in short, DAC or DAC.
Very sticky.
Yeah.
Maybe that will become your company name in the long run as a scale.
Yeah.
Well, what a fantastic story. You came up with the concept of your startup and you did the first right thing.
Yeah.
You went after a large market.
Yeah.
And that is, a lot of founders don't do that. They don't go after a large TAM. They go with the problem they think is important.
Correct.
So you checked one mark there.
Yeah.
So let's go on to the next question, which I call is coming from the founder's corner.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges you faced as a founder?
This is a $1 trillion economy. APIs are becoming a backbones of every communication, every apps. Today, if it was 4G that kind of, paved the way to build so many apps. Uber and everything that we see on our app store and our apps that we use today, it's all powered by APIs.
So let me put it this way. All the solutions we used to go to the computer or something else like an organization for their coming to your devices.
Correct. Yeah.
And APIs are making it happen.
Correct.
So it's making solutions very mobile and very user-centric.
Yeah. So mobile became a key revolution.
Yeah.
And then the 4G and then the 3G and 4G kind of paved the way to go on many apps. People were going on desktop to do all the transactions, banking and everything, right? So it was the people, it was the telecom, then the network, right? It kind of, gave the boost to whole API economy, right? Many billion-dollar companies are being built with just a few APIs, right? So that kind of vision, we had a different, vision to what to build, but the vision what we wanted to build was to, build the products and tools, around the APIs and the scale of APIs that they're building. Let me go back to the story. Like, after 2015, I had one single client. What I imagine, we bootstrapped so far, right? So it's been 7 years on the journey. Technically, it's a 5-year-old company. If I go back 2015 to 16, we had one single client. We built a lot of APIs for them, working from, a 2-bedroom apartment, back in India, Bangalore. 16, I reached out to Apigee. We made a partnership with them. 4 months later, 4 months later, Google acquired them. And we were the first partner, Apigee partner, to be onboarded as a partner to Google. And we helped a lot of enterprises adopt Apigee. For the next couple of years, it was all around, building a team, building a strong team. So I knew this, the whole API consulting, and I needed a lot of help, but I didn't want to continue the services in a long run, but it was always the product and the solution mindset which I had. But for that, I needed experience. I needed to understand more deeper challenges and the scaling problem of APIs. And that's where I chose to continue, consulting for the next 3 or 4 years. It was a pivot moment of 2017. We slowly started building solutions and product using all of our experiences. So we built a lot of tools to our enterprises around APIs. We built thousands of APIs for them. Telecom, banking, we set up the banking API platform. We understood the whole stack, how enterprises operate. And we also saw some of the gaps that the products that they were using. So those gaps kind of, that's where they were doing, building products on their own.
Yeah.
So all of these gaps, we kind of productized in our product. We call that as a one API marketplace. So from my experience of working with enterprises, using all of the experiences that we built, we prioritized the whole of them. And it was a crucial moment. It was also a kind of experiences that gave us to build this product. If we had not worked with enterprises, today, from transitioning from entire API consulting and selling it to big banks and, making it, selling licenses to them would have not happened if we would have, not worked with enterprises and not understood their mindset. Right. So today we understand enterprises so very well, and any conversation, any product challenges that we talk, the products that we talk, the challenges that we talk kind of resonates very well in the very first conversation with them.
So you're a typical B2B enterprise startup. That's what you are. Awesome. So you're telling us about your consulting journey and how you gained the experience of building enterprise level products. So give us a few client names who you work with and who do you work with now?
Sure. So we worked with telcos like AT&T of the world, in partnership with many other companies. We worked with GSMA. GSMA is a company. It's a house of 800 telecom operators.
Absolutely.
So they define telecom standards.
Absolutely.
And they worked with us, for 4 years. And we built a lot of API infrastructure called Apix. That was one of our very key client, very early client on. And that's where a lot of strong team were built. GSMA, AT&T, and there are customers like Bank BRI Indonesia, one of the largest bank in Indonesia. And we understood the APAC market as well. And how APAC market works entirely different. Their culture, their take towards the SaaS model and the cloud adoption. And also some of the Western world, where US, T-Mobile was one of the client early on.
Oh, wow.
We built T-Mobile's developer portal in their initial journey. And then the T-Mobile, and then we partnered with Google. Since we were partnered with Google, Google was pushing a lot of work, through them, and then the healthcare. So in collaboration with Google Cloud, so we built a healthcare specific solution, which is a FHIR Fire-based APIs. So today this solution is hosted by us. Google is selling this accelerator solution. It is jointly built solution by Google and
You're a partner with Google. You've been called a partner, ISV partner. Can you explain what that means?
So let me explain a different partnership that we had with Google. So when we were doing API consulting, we were a premier partner, and we were also awarded as a partner of the year between 17 and 18. And we were a partner of the year for APAC for 17 and 18. And we were also featured in Deloitte Fast 50 program. We were ranked at 10th position, ranked at 7th position.
So this ranking means that...
So we were like a top fastest growing technology companies in India. So we were featured in 2018 and 19. So the partnership, is going back to Google. So we were a premier partner. That means we were a very few chosen partner. There were like 8 premier partners at some point of time in 2008, 17 and 18, where we understood, some of these partners were identified in different regions. They were go-to partners to work with any Google's customer, Google Apigee's customer. So when we started working with the product journey, so while we enabled, we trained a lot of enterprises, probably we would have trained like 1,500, 2,000 professionals just by, Apigee trainings. So this was some of the initial work we did, kind of, gave us a lot of experience to build a product. So today, the partnership has evolved to be a ISV partner, independent software vendor. So we have built a lot of API marketplace, API products, developer tools around APIs. All of these products we are deploying on GCP marketplace. So this kind of, helps any GCP customer reduce all the onboarding time, flexibility of using GCP as a procurement way to adopt solutions from a GCP marketplace. For example, if you can find data stacks, you can find Redis Cache, MongoDB, any of these such products. So if you go to GCP marketplace, and as a GCP customer, I'm able to sign up for this product and I can start using it. So this kind of gives us a reduced time, sell the licenses much more faster.
Fantastic. So what part of this is automation? You mentioned that automation is your forte. It reduces time to speed, time to market. Let's put it that way for your client or customer. What part are you automating? Because I work with other startups who are in low code and no code space. They seem to have a similar kind of thesis or pitch. So how are you automating? What is your unique selling point?
That's a fantastic question. That's a very great question, Vidya. So let me start by laying out a few challenges that we're solving. The fundamental, the today enterprises, at least for the last 4 years, the way enterprises are operating, they are using multiple API platforms, right? Apigee, combination of Apigee, Kong, even the cloud gateways are evolving, right? So when they use multiple API platforms, the teams are using their own API platforms, and thousands of APIs are being built. Post-pandemic, enterprises were in the race of building APIs. Today, if I go to any bank, they're sitting on 10,000 APIs, 12,000 APIs, right? So the fundamental problem is, how do you catalog all of these APIs?
Yeah.
And I met with one of our customer in bank, one of the largest bank, in the UK. They said, look, I have like thousands of APIs built. Some of the people don't know these APIs are built because they're not documented, they're not published anywhere.
Yeah.
So one simple question, do you have an internal portal, right? So that was like 2018 and 19. So imagine today, right? One of the biggest, enterprises challenges, the consolidation.
Yeah.
Right? So we come in where APIs are built, and that's where we take the journey. So no code is also a tool that exists, that coexists with our product. So the product, what we do is helps enterprises to consolidate all the APIs in one single API marketplace. So we help connect to different tools that they have built, different pipelines that they have, right? Development pipelines. Let's say a developer from a team A, develops APIs, and we come and we take those APIs, consolidate, publish it, and make it available as part of consumable to the team B, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we do. And we plug into a different pipeline. And we have automated the whole way of how once a development happens, once a design happens, how it gets published, how the life cycle happens to an API, what happens to it, how it gets consumed, whether it is consumed, whether it needs to be published to the external API marketplace or make it available internally. So that's a key fundamental problem that we're solving, right? To make the APIs available, consumable, adoptable, and also reducing the overall redundancy of developing APIs again and again. Because once a developer at an enterprise, once he develops APIs, his job is done. He tests it, forgets about it. But it's his product manager's responsibility of making it available, making it consumable, and making it testable. Yeah. So the other side of the equation that we're solving is, the external marketplace.
Yeah.
Today, enterprises are sitting on thousands of APIs, and enterprises are evolving, creating a lot of developer experiences. So it is not just an informational developer portal. They need to have a studio. They need to have a sandbox. They need to have workflows to onboard multiple streams of teams and fintechs and third parties out there, right? Different workflows there. So we have 70% of this are automated and pre-built workflows in our product. So what we do is enterprises, once we work with them, we understand, okay, we need this set of features. In the first 3 months, the first couple of weeks, we do a discovery with them, and we send a checklist of things that they want to build it. Once they say, this is the ticks, that we want to add in the product, it's less than 2 months we build an external API marketplace for them, and with all of the developer experiences in it. So this is the challenge that we're solving. Based on our experience, we have spent months, probably 1.5 years, to build developer portal, API marketplace, and those developer marketplaces still not there because it was built as part of services. Now, if I look at today, we have automated everything. So if what we build, what we give into an enterprise, a product is a 2 years, of a product worth of services, they would have spent, if they would have built, by themselves.
Yeah, fantastic. I want to ask you if you use AI, because this kind of intel, it's humongous. How do you manage the intelligence? Like, how do you map the APIs, the pipelines, and put them in the right marketplace? So it seems like an AI task. Do you use AI, or is this?
Yeah, AI will come in definitely, because we do a consolidation, publish the APIs. So we do have a different hierarchy of all the teams, of all the groups, within the large enterprises, right? We use a hierarchy and we use a role-based access control to identify who wants what here and who's consuming what, right? So let's say today, as a developer from team A, I need to have an access to be able to publish it. And team B, as a developer, I have a role just to consume it, but I can't publish it because I'm just a consumer end, right? I may be a developer who builds apps using those APIs, right? So there's a hierarchy, and on the hierarchy, you would have a role-based, access control or RBAC concept, which helps to have a different group of APIs and then, have the ownership, to the APIs. So this is where we automate all of this, a lot of many workflows here.
Fantastic. So, one question I want to ask you is, you mentioned Postman many times when you were drawing analogy, when you were trying to explain to me what you do. And I kind of wondered if they are your competitors. So who are your competitors, and how can you explain your product in terms of Postman to someone? Postman has been around, they're very popular. So tell us about your competitors. And
Great question. I get asked a lot. Are you something like Postman? Are you something like Rapid API? Yes, in a way we do compete. We do have some overlapping products. Let me explain. Postman helps developers to build and test APIs. It helps a developer in the process of developing API, test it. They create a collection. They share the collection with other developers once they build it. So for the developers who build APIs, that's their core product, right? So they have like 20 million users. Postman is great. Even we use Postman. Even our developers use Postman. Postman to develop APIs, because we do develop a lot of industry vertical specific APIs, right? So our product comes into play when the APIs are built. So we address the other end of the developers who will consume these APIs.
Gotcha.
And those developers as well, they use Postman, they use, Open API specification, what we call as Swagger. Yeah. So in a way, we kind of coexist, because the developers, they do use a lot of developer tools to develop, create, test, and deploy APIs. So at the enterprise, let's say enterprises build these APIs, they use Postman and they publish it. When we create a marketplace and developers comes into a marketplace, they understand, they consume these APIs, they read the documentation, and they go to a sandbox. The sandbox is provided by us.
I see. So you have a product which has the label sandbox.
Correct. Yeah.
What is to be expected from a DAX sandbox product?
Yeah. So we call it an Open API sandbox. Imagine, if you're a third-party developer, you come to a large bank's API marketplace, and first thing what you do is you register for an API. You create an application. Once you create an application, what is next? Right?
Yeah.
So a developer should be given a tools, and you should make him, you should give them a transactional playground, a transactional sandbox, a playground for him, so he can test it, break it, and all the enterprise's APIs, and he should be able to reset the data.
Yeah.
He should be able to bring in his data. He should be able to download the data.
Yeah.
He should make his test it with own data.
Yeah.
So that's the developer experience we created with our sandbox.
Fantastic.
So today, if a developer walks into an API marketplace, registers, it's not like a day one, the enterprise will give him a production APIs access. So enterprises want to see the apps, what kind of apps these third parties have built, but there's a certifying process. So we do have a workflows as well for that. This is what makes the marketplace workflows an experience part, right? Sandbox helps enterprises to make the developers or third parties to adopt the APIs much more faster and then go to the production. So the more faster the third parties adopt APIs, build apps much more faster, it is a new business channel, business revenue for the enterprises.
Absolutely. So this is a whole new world where effort from the developer is reducing, and the automation and the engine is taking on that load.
Correct.
I believe no code, low code is one form of it. But you are at a whole new level there.
Correct.
You're automating marketplaces. That's like a very exciting space to be.
Absolutely.
So, on that note, I want to ask you, what is the next round of funding you're raising? What's next for that?
So let me give you a quick stats. As I said, we are about 100 plus people in size. We have customer success, we have engineering team, we have support, DevOps, infrastructure, we have sales, pre-sales, small number, and we have a finance team globally. We're 100 plus. So right now, as you mentioned, we're at 1.7 million ACV. We are looking to close another, $500,000, at least in the next 2-3 months. We're looking at 7 million, up and above to invest, globally, expand the sales.
So DAC is expecting to raise $7 million to globally expand sales. And are you in the mindset of hiring marketing? Are you expanding on other fronts in your organization?
Yeah, absolutely. We do have, we have all the functions right now. So, and all the functions are working independently, and we're looking forward to expand, scale these teams, scale the sales, scale the marketing, and scale all the activities that we're doing, right? So right now, today, we're handling 2 or 3 customer workshops, every quarter. With the funding, we want to increase that to 10 customer workshops, pre-sales activities. So we want to have that 10 customer pipelines. And how do we make that happen? And of course, more sales leaders, more warm leads that we could generate. At the same time, we want to expand it, make the whole sales globally and scale it. So I want to come back to that question. We're looking at raising 7 million funding. It's a Series A funding we're looking. We have bootstrapped so far, as I mentioned, we talked about the numbers for 1.7 million ACV. With the funding, we want to reach in the first year at 4.2 to 4.5 million ACV. That's a selling that we want to do. We're also working towards, having, building the pipeline for that. We are at the right spot where we have a product that's working. Are we the only company, we are building this product? No, there are companies like Postman. They do have similar products like API Network. There are companies like Rapid API. They do have an API Hub for teams, for enterprises. And there are companies like Stoplight. There are a few more companies, who are doing similar work. What are our key differentiators, right? So our key differentiators is our enterprise experiences. So we know how enterprises work. We know what kind of products that they want to build, what kind of API ecosystem they want to build, and that's where our products rightly addresses it, right?
Fantastic. So seems like very hot startup in the right place at the right time here in Silicon Valley at a lot of SaaS events, meeting the high ticket investors. Tell us about a few investors who have shown interest, or is there something under wraps?
Yeah, so of course I've been having conversations. These are institutional investors. There are a couple of corporate investors as well showing an interest in our product. So yeah, my goal is to raise in the next 3 or 4 months.
Fantastic. Wishing you a lot of good luck on this very promising startup. I learned so much about APIs, API marketplaces, the next frontier of enterprise developer tools, if you will. And people like you are disrupting it, are rethinking things. Wishing you all the best and thank you so much for your most valuable time.
Yeah, thank you, Vidya. Thank you for having me.
Awesome.
Yeah.